Welcome back, everyone. It's Bears of a Certain Age. If it's Monday, it's time for another great show with your favorite podcast bears. Mr. Jonny Shuffield's in the house.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. We also have a guest. They love it.
There you go. I am your co-host, Scott, and we have a very special guest today. We have Mr. Noah Heymann here, all the way from Brooklyn, New York. He is known as the date coach. Noah, how are we doing? What's going on, my friend?
I'm doing great, Scott. Jonny, thanks for having me on.
Welcome
excited.
to Bears of a Certain Age. You are neither a bear or of a certain age. You may be a bear. I can only see you from the neck up, but you are. We're going to talk about what you do because you create these great relationships for guys of any size, persuasion, color, anything, guys, girls, anything. So we're going to talk about all that. I'm excited to have you on. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I am a certain age. I'm 40. That's not as certain as your all's age, but it's certainly something. And yeah, no, I'm a chubby chaser. I'm not a bear, but there's a lot of overlap. The Venn diagrams, there's a lot of overlap.
Right?
There are.
Jonny and I just talked about that last week. We're kind of. I'm a chub with a bear rising, and Jonny's the opposite. Jonny's a bear with a chub rising. Is our house of.
As long as there are men rising, I am happy. That's all. That's all that matters to me.
So we kind of talk about that quite a bit. And Jonny and I talk about our dating life or lack thereof quite a bit as well. So this is a good show for us here. So we're excited.
Bears got the best of me. Said bears on my fantasy. Said bears ain't what I like. We do it all night, all right. Bears that don't discriminate. I take a carbon chop to circumnavigate. Steal my heart to let it percolate all night, all right. Bears got the best of me. Said bears on my fantasy. Said bears ain't what I like. We do it all night, all right. Bears.
And I have to ask an annoying question that has nothing to do with anything, and I'm going to do it anyways. This is my version of that question when a straight person finds out that you're gay and they assume you know everyone. So you live in Brooklyn and you give good dating advice out there. Do you know Damon L. Jacobs? He lives in Brooklyn. He's a sex and relationship therapist, so it's a little different. Oh. And I want you two to know each other because I could just tell. And he is 54, and every birthday he posts a naked picture to show, we should all be proud. I'm telling you, you guys, I will connect you because he's awesome.
I appreciate it.
You guys, you guys are in the same wheelhouse.
There's a few million of us in Brooklyn, and most of my coaching is on Zoom with people all around the world or whatever. But I do have more clients in Brooklyn, and it's always fun. Occasionally, two will go on a date, even if I didn't set them up. So it does sometimes feel like a small town, but it's actually millions of people.
Right, exactly. I'm sure you meet him at all the meetings. Those meetings, whatever they are.
Share a little bit about your history, Noah, because I think it's a very interesting road to what you do now. I mean, you were in diplomatic corps for a while. You were stationed all over the world, different parts of the country. Give our listeners a little bit of your background before you got into the date coach life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was closeted in college. And so all of my interest in love and relationships and sexuality sounded like something that only a gay guy would care about. So I was like, can't do that, right? How to suppress that. So, I joined the Foreign Service, maybe another way to get away from it all. And lived all around the world. And it was, if I couldn't do what I really wanted to do, it was like the second best in terms of fulfillment, right? It was fulfilling. I got to, work with people, meet new kinds of people. But in the end, the issues of immigration and, the Taliban peace negotiations and all, it's interesting, but it's not as much my thing as your love life, right? I want to hear, how did that date go? I want to hear about, well, oh my God, you're getting more messages? That's so exciting. What are you messaging back? You message that, don't message that. Why are you messaging that? That's the real me. And it just took me lots of years to throw away a great career and do this. It was really when the pandemic hit that I was like, I got the URL datecoach.com and I'm like, I'm not looking back. Right.
Yeah.
Because I realized if I wanted to coach, bears and chubs and chasers, right? Well, if I do that in just like some area of Brooklyn, there's not really enough. But now that everybody's on Zoom, whatever, they can be in Barcelona.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
And I never look back.
Well, and also you talked about during the pandemic. I mean, where were they going to go? They needed someone to help them, and you were right there. No one's going out. Most of us couldn't go out. So, also, I find it fascinating that in a weird way, being a diplomat, which is finding ways for people to connect, really, for them to talk to each other, to hear each other. It's really the same, but different. Like it's more personal. Would you say that? Does that kind of translate?
Absolutely. I mean, you're having a lot of meetings, right? Which is just a date, right? You're trying to understand their point of view and trying to express yourself and, these communication skills. So there's a lot of overlap. I don't want to oversell it though, right? In the diplomatic service, I wasn't like taking anybody, like taking nice photos with, making sure the lighting and the cropping and like, what do I do with my hands? There wasn't much, the sex coaching aspect that doesn't really come up, like coaching people on their like, polyamorous or open long distance relationships. There is overlap, but I don't, and it wasn't wasted time, right? And I speak great Spanish and I can coach people in Spanish and I do. So there are things there, but mostly I was just too much of a pussy to not do it earlier, right? Like to not do what I loved, right? I'm happy I did it when I did it, but if I could have done it at 22, oh my God, that would have been so cool. But here I am.
Everything in its time, though. Everything in its time.
And you've got this experience under your belt now, but I mean, we always hear expressions like a lawyer who has himself as a client is a fool. Talk about your love life before. Was this from experience, learned experience? Was this more kind of just studying others? Talk about how this came about, this expertise.
Yeah, certainly of all people, the one who needed a dating coach the most was early 20s Noah, right? That, so helpless, right? Not even once I came out, okay, well, what site should I be on? Okay, I kind of figured that out. But my profiles were horrible, right? And even once there was like somewhat mental block. I was already a data nerd who was reading through all the research on what makes the best profile and what makes the best photos and how to send them. I was reading it and not doing it, right? And therefore, my dating life was, as you'd expect, it kind of sucked like everybody else's. I then got lucky when I was living overseas, I guess, and met my now partner of 13 years, and we have little kids, and it's happily ever after and all that. But it was. Yeah, it was a total struggle. My body confidence, my sexual confidence, my confidence in every kind of aspect. I guess I was a decent conversationalist. That wasn't so difficult for me. But yeah, and also even if or once I became good at dating, right, to be a good coach, I had to do a lot of practice on that, a lot of research on that, right, to be able to help somebody else in the way that they want to be helped, right? Because people don't always come to me and ask for the same thing, right? It could be one very narrow, like, I just want better photos, or like, I just, how do I bottom, right? Like, what do I do? Right? It can be these very small things, but most are coming for, I want to find a loving partner. But then how do I get there? They don't want help in every aspect. They're like, I'm good on conversation. If I'm bad at it, I don't want to admit to myself I'm bad on it. So let's work on other things. Okay. And how do I ask the right questions and not just throw data advice at them?
Right. So this is what fascinates me. First of all, data advice is what you do to make yourself even better at what you do. You know what I mean? It's almost like the magic behind the curtain that people get to garner the greatness of that. But one of the things you mentioned, and you mentioned it in an article I read, where you're not just out there, you're the modern day gay man coach, really, because it's not just you want to find love. Definitely you can help them do that. But you are not, you don't, what we would say, slut shame. You don't, if goals are different, you are the gamut. You talk about giving advice, sex advice. Talk to us about, I feel like that's a new breed of a dating coach that we didn't see when I was coming up through the years. You know what I mean? Talk to us
Yeah,
about that.
right. Absolutely. I really try not to pigeonhole my clients into, oh, okay, you're looking for companionship. Occasionally I do accidentally do that. I'm like, oh, you must be really unhappy because you don't have that companionship. No, that's not actually why I'm here to talk to you. Oh, shoot, I feel like an ass, right? That, oh, I'm in a loving relationship. The problem is with my partner's boyfriend. Right? Oh, okay. Right. You know, right. That's okay. Cool. Right. There's, in the general queer community, there's a lot of polyamory. Gays, it seems a little bit less, but gays are about 2/3 are open these days. Right.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Right. And the kink community, the poly community can be really good at writing down rules, talking things out, being very specific about like, okay, well, is looking at porn cheating? Any gay guy would be like, of course not. But somebody else might say yes, right? But gays often kind of fly by the seat of their pants. Don't talk it out. Don't write things down, and can still get into trouble. We've got such advantages. I take non-gay clients, and man, they have it harder. I gotta say, it's great to be a gay adult. I tell my friends with kids, may your children be straight teenagers, because that was a hard time, and gay adults, because it's a lot.
I love that. Right.
Yes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Noah, but I kind of consider a matchmaker is someone that is looking for the other person, helps you match with another person. You're a dating coach and you do a lot of
Right.
things that really help the person themselves, right? You talk about how to create a profile, how to get confidence, how to kind of maybe even do things for wardrobe.
Right.
So you're mostly working on the person looking to date, not someone else they're looking for, right? Is that more of what you do?
Right. Yeah, I just, matchmaking to me seems to work well if you're not looking for a loving match, right? If you're, kind of traditional South Asian culture, there's with arranged marriages or, other cultures like that, where it's not about love, it's about what works for your family and financially and, your schedules, those kind of things. Like, sure, matchmaking works great. I don't have great faith in it for finding love. I don't, not only that as a human, is it putting a lot of pressure on a human to do something better for you than you can do for yourself. But even the algorithms, right? It is shocking that with all the data out there and all the AI behind Match and Hinge and everyone, all these sites proposing, oh, this is your ideal match. The research on that is it doesn't work. Okay, so yeah, it's very surprising, or not yet. Maybe the AI will get smart enough soon, but so far it's not smart enough. So I'm helping people on their search. I'm not going to do the search for them. It's so attractive, this easy button of like, just set me up with my future husband. Right? But if they're on the wrong apps, or if they're not app people, right? They're going to bars or events, or they're asking friends, hey, can you set me up with someone? There's all these other avenues, especially if you're in a big city, right? Speed dating and all these fun things. If you're not looking in the right place, you're at a huge disadvantage. So we look in the right place. Okay, now, if we're looking in person, how do we make ourselves approachable? How do we approach somebody? Right? And if we're online, how do we make an attractive photo, an attractive profile, send an attractive first message? Right? And then once we're on the date, the conversation, or afterwards, the sex or the body confidence, or after that, the jealousy, the long distance relationship. If I can improve each of these things marginally, right, it compounds into some many times more likely that they'll find whatever they're looking for most people, a loving companion, sooner, right? That's the idea.
Yeah. And tell me, so in one of the articles I noticed on your website, datecoach.com, you mentioned grow. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect?
Yeah, that's the traditional coaching model, right? That's grow is an acronym. So goals, right? What are you looking for? That's what I always start with. I do a free intro session because, it's not everyone knows pizza or everyone knows what a shirt is. What is coaching? Most people don't have a good sense of it. So it's unfair to be like, just sign up. Like, no, meet me and see if we're a good fit, right? And we might not be. Some people are not. But we start with your goals. And for me, that's not just tell me your goals. I start with, okay, we're in the perfect romantic world. The kind of guys you like are infinitely available. They're all into you, and there are no obstacles of lack of time, lack of money, lack of health, lack of energy, distance between you. What would your perfect romantic life look like, right? And we talk through that, okay? And that's our goals, yes, but we didn't phrase it that way. And then R is for realities or your circumstances, right? Okay, I had this 3-year relationship, I had this 2-year one, I came out late, I got divorced through this, whatever those things are. I can't really date so easily because I'm working 6 days a week. Okay, yada, yada, yada. And then, okay, are we a good fit for each other? And then the O is what are our options? So that's in our first coaching session after the intro, we are laying out, okay, so we want that loving relationship. What are the things we can work on? We already know we're looking in the right place. For us, we're slut supreme. So we're going grinders, sniffies, and whatever, right? And then we already have great photos. How we write about ourselves, that we could use some work on. We've always felt awkward about that. Let's see what the data says about that. That's going to be a first thing we're going to work on. Okay, messages, we feel really good. Somehow we're great at messaging, but conversation on the first date is unbalanced, so that might be the second thing we're going to work on. And then body confidence. Those are going to be our 3 things, and we jump right into them. The W in grow is what will you do, right? Because it's nice, you have all these great options, but so what are you going to do about it, right? And what are you going to do first? And occasionally, I'm a procrastinator too, right? Occasionally a coach is there to help with accountability, right? Like, okay, we're going to take new pictures. When are you going to do that? Who's going to take the pictures? What would make it more likely for these pictures to happen before I see you again, right? Those kind of, hopefully not in a jerk way, but in a like, we don't want to waste our time. We've wasted the last decade on a bad dating life, right? We want a fulfilling dating life, so let's do it.
Well, let's talk.
See, and I volunteer, Scott. I volunteer. All of my friends are like, Scott's so sweet. He's so cute. So
there you go. I'm not a photo person.
Right?
So Johnny's been trying for 6 months to turn me into a photo person. I'm trying. I take a selfie every day with coffee. Yeah. So from the neck up, I'm gorgeous now, but I'm not real happy with my neck down.
Well, the first thing the data, not the first thing. The first thing I always say when I talk about photos is the data's clear. No selfies. I'm sorry to tell you. You can't have selfies as your in your dating profile because there's so many reasons, but the front-facing camera is worse than the back-facing camera. You're contorting yourself, this like weird angle to hit yourself. Focused on the photo and not feeling yourself, the confidence in the moment. The lighting is off. It also comes off like either you have no friends, right? Why is nobody else taking your photo? Or you're that vain guy who's always taking his photo. Either one's not a good.
You've just ruined my entire Instagram feed for the last 5 minutes.
I'm
horrible.
No. Well, we're gonna set you up with some amazing photo shoot. It doesn't have to be like a professional photographer, right? It's generally, if someone's in Brooklyn, it's me. But if they're in Seattle or wherever, it's just a friend with a Samsung or an iPhone. It doesn't matter.
Well, we are staying at that clothing optional resort in Palm Springs, so I think that's your shot, Scott. That's the
okay.
one.
That's fine. I'm gonna keep to my
photos are
in the jacuzzi, so it's from waist up again.
Right.
I mean, you say you look best from the waist up, but just something to keep in mind is who's ever going to ultimately be into you, they're ultimately going to see your body, right? maybe let them see before they meet you, so it's not awkward at that point. They might like that love handle or that extra roll or that bushy chest hair or whatever you're shy of, right? That might be really hot for them. And if it's not, on to the next guy. Right?
I like that.
Hell
all
yeah.
right. You're winning me over here, Noah. Well, let's talk about subgroups, because Johnny and I kind of appeal to certain subgroups. We talk about, you're familiar with the chub and the chaser genre. Talk about a couple of tips specific in each of those. What's some things maybe let's talk about the different size relationships and what people should not be self-conscious of, like I am, or things that people should look for in that area.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of these things are universal, right? When I'm having my client, take photos, be in tight clothing, as tight as you're comfortable with. Because, if you're emaciatedly thin and embarrassed about it, okay, let's try to be less embarrassed. But someone who's extremely, into very thin guys, it's going to be excited to see it. On the other hand, if you're 500 pounds, right? There are some guys who are really into that and want to see it. And it's amazing that in certain contexts, a chub could internalize that, right? If they're at a chub chaser event, right, there's 1,500 guys, hanging out walrusing by the pool. They might walk by with their intentional kind of belly poke, a shirt an inch too short, and they're rocking it and feeling themselves, right? And then they get home and that vanishes, right? It's like, well, I can't do that on Growler or Scruff or Grinder or something because that's not a good look. It's not a good look for whom. It was good at that thing. The people who are into you on the apps, at the event, they're now on the apps, they're still into you. They still want to see you confident, showing off whatever it is. And the others who are anti-fat jerks, let's build up our rhino armor and our, body confidence so that they are just simulations. They do not exist to us. It does not matter what they think, right? And let's just be ourselves, right? So, the body confidence stuff is often an issue, and that can be a chaser. It can be a young person, an old person, a trans person, a cis person. It doesn't matter, right? But it is more common in fat people, right? That is just, and how could it not be? Our society is so anti-fat, it's horrible, right? The other side of that, what do chasers often face? Chasers are often coming out later, right? Because they had the kind of double coming out, right? They have to come out. I didn't come out as gay before as a chaser, right? My first conversations with my friends and family and stuff was like, I like guys and only fat guys, right? I fortunately did them at once. Some guys are kind of do it sequentially or whatever. And there can be shame in that, right? And if you have shame, well, the guy you're trying to date, he knows you have shame about him. Now his shame, now it's reverberating shame. Fuck that, right?
Exactly.
Right? Let's just be ourselves. And, some guys tip over the line from, okay, I was shamed and now I'm objectifying. Now I'm all about this guy and his body and forgetting that this is a human being, right? So these, we try to calibrate that. But, every group is not a monolith, right? It's, whenever I hear someone, chasers, they're always such, like, all of them are just what, right? Usually it's not so monolithic. And, there's books like The Round World that talk about, okay, yes, there are chubby chasers who are like beauty chasers and chubby chasers who are power chasers, right? And these are looking for very different kinds of chubs, right? So we can always keep splitting these groups smaller and smaller and smaller until we just get down to the individual and there's no labels at all, right?
Yeah. And I have to say, so what do you say? You mentioned you love data. Tell me what the data says. So, Scott and I have made it, we were both 325, the same weight at our highest, and now we're not. And so we went from being in the chub community, now we're sort of like chub bear community. And then we get older. You hit a certain age. I think it's for any of us, but in the gay community that we know, is it harder to date when you're older? I know, set in our ways and all that stuff. Or is that just this bill of goods that we were allowed to be sold to us? Do you think, does it show that it's harder?
Yeah, certainly younger guys get more attention on the apps, right? That is true. But is it overall harder, right? There's a lot of advantages that come with age, right? Your average 50-year-old has more money than your average 22-year-old. And it's hard to date when you're poor, right? That's right. You might have, you have to be working all the time, or you can't travel to, P-Town or whatever the thing is, right? Also, a lot of us have more confidence at 50 than we did at 20, right? We are really secure in who we are. Maybe our body confidence is not better, but we're, a more confident man, right? So there are those things. I think you also see sometimes people getting kind of pigeonholed. I saw a lot of my friends, they're turning 40, 50. They went from being like kind of verse or maybe bottoms, whatever, and now they've turned into like, I'm stuck as my like dom daddy. All these college kids on Grindr just want me to spank them. Will somebody fuck me, please? Right? So there's all these kind of like, things that happen at certain ages. There's also the lack in our community of people, of gays in their 60s and 70s and 80s because of the AIDS epidemic, right? So, we'll see. We don't have, many models who are even older. So it's a strange thing where like 55-year-olds are like, I'm so old. Like, old, really? What about 85-year-olds? What do they feel like, right? I coach people who are 70 and are looking at the like 50-year-olds who are like, nobody likes a 50-year-old. And you're like, I'm 70. What about that, right?
Exactly.
And then there's occasionally, and you see it, you see it all the time, right? My friend who's 30 and his boyfriend is 80, and it's wonderful, right? It's only beautiful, and yeah, their own like getting past their own insecurities about, well, this guy's older than my parents, or people will think I'm robbing the cradle, or those kind of things. Yeah, we just got to get over it and get to the love.
Put that on a t-shirt. Get over and get to the love. That is exactly where it's at. But you're right. It's all in the way, like when we were just talking about, you can walk around and have the belly poking. It's all about how you feel. We make dating about how others feel about us, when honestly, if we feel good about ourselves, that takes care of a big chunk of what's going on. You know what I mean?
And it's sexier. It's most people. There's a very few people who like the shy, awkward person in the corner. There are some. Right. But most people are like, wow, that guy. Yeah, that guy, right? Yeah. And in fact, maybe even more, for me and for many people, my favorite guy on the dance floor is not the one who can dance like Beyonce and knows it. It's the guy who dances like Napoleon Dynamite and still is loving being out there, right? That's the guy, right? Exactly. And I'm sure you see among your own friends, the ones who are so successful at dating, which just means meeting whatever their goals are with their fulfillment, right? So this can be, monogamy for 60 years or, sleeping with everybody. It's not necessarily the hottest people, right? But it often is the most self-secure people, right?
Yeah, exactly. See, Scott, we have so much fun to be had in the next couple weeks. We're going to be
Noah's giving my 2 new favorite sayings. Talk about the t-shirt. If you see me in Palm Springs and I say, I'm going to put on my rhino armor and go walrus by the pool, leave me the fuck alone. I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to have some fun, damn it.
Yes. So as we get closer, I'm going to ask you to do one of those annoying questions. Top 3 things people, if they're dating, that they need to be aware of. Things they need to reflect on. Top 3 things you would tell them.
Top 3 things. Wow. Okay. I'm very bad under the time pressure and Brennan, but I'll say
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Are you looking in the right place, right, or places? People are often looking where is most comfortable for them, which could be an advantage if you should be in a place that's comfortable. But is it really your place? It's amazing how many people, are, for example, a bear, a chub, a chaser, or something like that, and are on Grindr. I've never heard of another app, right? It's like, there are apps that are like catering towards hairiness or catering towards chubbiness, right? Like you don't. You could check them out, right? So that you're looking in the right place. And then that, if you don't want, a dating coach, at least, work with somebody you trust, right? Ask them their opinion, right? Because we often can't see ourselves as well as other people can, right? Very few people ask for help. What could I be doing better, right? And your good friends, they might give you horrible advice. So maybe ask a couple and try to like crowdsource something, but you might learn something like, oh shoot, I'm coming across like my photos. I thought they were wonderful, but I'm not smiling across in any of them, and I'm coming across kind of unapproachably tough, right? Or I am smiling and it's coming across really bland. Maybe I should be laughing. I don't know, right? Once you reach their limit, yeah, you can reach out to somebody like me, but get somebody else's feedback or many other people's feedback on, your photos, your profile, your messages, right? That guy you hooked up with 2 years ago, you messaged him for a couple times, you became friends. Your opening message of like, hey, what's up, right? Yeah, it worked out in that case, but like maybe that wasn't the best, right? And maybe he's willing to tell you, okay? And then, the third thing I would say is, you have to find routines that are fulfilling, right? If you are burning yourself out by going on tons of dates or sending tons of messages or, kind of serially getting into relationships that last 2 months, right? Nothing's going to change if you change nothing, right? So what could be something there, right? Are my habits likely to lead towards my goals? And if not, throw other ideas out there, right? What options could I have, and run with them, right? The worst, that happens is that doesn't work. You try something else.
Fantastic. I love those. Well, Noah Heymann, it's been absolutely fantastic getting to know you. Why don't you brag about yourself a little bit? The website is datecoach.com. Tell our listeners what they can expect. You offer, I think, a free consultation. Tell them about what they can expect if they contact you.
Absolutely. So they can go on datecoach.com. It's a pretty easy site. They can email me at noah@datecoach.com. They can go to my Instagram, which is datecoach.com. Can message me there. And all we'll eventually do is set up this intro session. It's a half an hour for us to figure out that we're not a good fit, right? And I don't want to coach somebody where it's not a good fit, right? If somebody's only talking about trauma, well, the best way to process trauma, in my opinion, is therapy. And I'm not a therapist, and I don't want to be working in that space, right? If someone's only talking about sin and Leviticus, I don't know Leviticus. I got my trans minister friend, and I'm going to refer you to her. If somebody wants pickup artistry, right, where I want to suppress my true self so I can score, right? I don't do it. I'm sorry, I'm not interested, right? I only do authentic dating, right? It can be slutty, it can be kinky, I don't care, but it's got to be who you are, right? That because it's exhausting, and otherwise, to me it feels like helping someone get closeted. I'm not in. And if we're feeling it, we'll go an hour, right? And we're going to really, explore what you want and what your situation is, and what might coaching look like, and see if we're a good fit, right? There's I jive with a lot of different kinds of people, but not all, right? I had a guy do an intro session with me the other day who is going on a tremendous amount of dates, right? I would say probably in the last decade he's been on 2,000 dates. Or 2,000 first dates, or he might call them hookups, right? And he thought none of these guys were dateable. 0 out of 2,000. And, for me, that's not, I don't think I could convince him of otherwise. I didn't feel up to it. Too much of a challenge for me, right? And so it's not always going to work. But when it does, it's exciting, and we're off to the races. And then I work myself out of a job as quick as possible, right? It's not therapy. It's not months and years, right? And the main way I work is referrals. So mostly it's not going to be your listeners who are calling me in. It's going to be like, shoot, my roommate, my cousin, like, Jonny, when you're talking like, Scott, you should talk to Noah, right? I don't know if you will, Scott, but it's that kind of thing, right?
I do. That's fantastic.
Listen, we got to spread love around the world, so I think this is perfect.
Best job in the world.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. You are a delight. I had read a bunch of your articles, and I figured you would be cool, but this was delightful. So thank you.
We should do like a dating roundtable, maybe once a quarter or so, and bring Noah back and bring a couple of people that are looking for questions for you. Do some questions.
Right, yeah.
It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I've done some, live kind of like coaching workshop where somebody's kind of the guinea pig and is a little bit, able to share themselves, and other people are like spurred on to like, well, if they can, I can, right?
Right.
Yeah, I love that stuff. It just needs people who are willing to be a little bit exposed and honest. But
I love it.
let's
Well,
do it.
Noah Heymann, stay on the line
amazing.
for us. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in every Monday. Jonny and I, if we're not here on a podcast, you'll find us live on Instagram every other Monday. We will be in Palm Springs and Las Vegas from July 7th to July 13th, so look for that. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye, Jonny.
Bye, guys.